Okay, so for our potato latkes, the first thing that we're going to want to do is shred up our potatoes and our onion. There's two ways that you can do everything today. If you have a food processor, you can keep everything in a food processor and it'll be really quick and easy to use. I do not have, I have one, but it's very small. So I'm just going to be doing everything by hand. So either way, whatever you guys want to do, I'll have directions for both. Regardless, no matter what method you're doing, we're going to want to peel the potatoes first. So we're just going to get out a vegetable peeler and we'll just peel our potatoes. So you can hold your potato. Hold on, I think some people are waiting. Okay, perfect. For anyone who is just joining us, we're just starting right now. We are on step 1, so we're about to peel our potatoes. I want to show you guys a trick that I learned that keeps your fingers safe, and also I don't know if whoever's peeled potatoes before, but once you get the skin off, they can get kind of slimy. So one thing that you can do is you can take a fork. You're just going to want to stick it in the end pretty firmly. So that way, if you pick the potato up, it sticks. And then this way, you have a way to hold your potato without getting your fingers in the way, without having to touch the slimy potato afterwards. And then usually what you'll have to do eventually is once you finish peeling this one side, you'll have to switch over, take the fork out and put it into the other side. Another thing you can do is just wear gloves as well if you don't like the feeling of the potato, but this is a nice sturdy hack. And just figured I would share. All right, so now I have this one side done, so I'm just gonna take the fork out, put it in the other side. It's very strong. There we go. And then just do the same thing. So you're going to do this to all of your potatoes. Depending on the size, you'll have 2 to 3. Mine are pretty much on the bigger side, so I have 2. And then if anyone is using a food processor after your potatoes are peeled, you would cut them into some big chunks. But if you're grating them by hand, then you're going to leave them whole. So I'm leaving mine whole.
Was there a recipe somewhere with the ingredients and how much we need of everything? Because I missed it this time
Went
around.
out in the email, but if you don't have it, I can send a copy in the chat really quick.
Okay, that would be cool. Thanks.
Okay, let me do that right now. So far, what we're doing right now, just so you guys can get started on that if you need to, we're just peeling 2 to 3 russet potatoes, depending on the size of them. Let me just go grab that recipe.
Sophia, we have to say thank you for the trick about the fork. This has made it so easy to actually
Awesome.
You've changed our life, so thank you.
Good.
And
I saw it on the internet the other day and I was like, actually, that's really, I never would have thought of that myself. And I was like, that's really smart. So I figured it might help some other people too. So I was like, why not share it? It's giving me trouble. Give me 1 second. Okay, let's see. All right, I just added a link to the document in the chat for anyone who needs it. Just let me know if that works. If not, we will come up with something else. I can always read everything off as well. And we'll always send an email out either tomorrow or Tuesday as well, and that will have a PDF of the recipe in there too. Okay. All right, so I'm just gonna finish peeling this last potato. Right. So both my potatoes are peeled. I'm just gonna discard all these peels really quick. And once everyone has those potatoes peeled, just give me a thumbs up and we'll go on to the next step. And feed them already. Awesome. All right, looks like everyone's pretty much good. So again, if you are using a food processor, you're gonna wanna cut the potato into quarters lengthwise. So you would cut it right down the middle and then cut those halves down the middle too. So you'll have 4 long skinny quarters. If you are not using a food processor, then you're just gonna leave them whole. So now I'm just gonna peel my onion. Just gonna cut the end off so I can get the peel off easier. And I usually like to go down to the first completely yellow layer. You can see this one still looks like the color of the skin a little bit. So I'm going to peel that layer off as well. And then I'm going to leave that with the first layer. So we just want to get that thin skin off the onion. All right, so I have my onion here. I'm leaving it whole. You want to make sure if you're going to be grating it by hand as well, you want to leave this root end intact. That'll help the onion stay together as we grate it later. And then again, if you're using a food processor, you're going to want to cut the onion into quarters as well. And then once everyone has their potatoes and their onions ready, just give me another thumbs up and we'll go on to the next one. I see everyone. Okay, awesome. Great job. So now we're going to start grating the potatoes and the onions. If you're using your food processor, you're going to want to use the coarse grating disc, and then you're going to put all the quarters into the food processor and you'll just pulse it until you get kind of like fine shreds. But if you're not, you're using a box or a hand grater. I'm going to use my box grater. You can also use a hand grater. You're just going to grate them over. I'm going to take a piece of paper towel.
I have to come back because the part don't match.
Okay. That's okay. All right. So now I'm going to get a wet paper towel. You can use either, actually not a wet paper towel, sorry, a dry paper towel, or you can use a dishcloth. So I'm putting this on the bottom of my cutting board so that way everything that I grate is going to come out onto the paper towel. Basically, there's going to be a lot of moisture. So we're going to want to make sure that we can squeeze it all out. So I am going to use, let's see, just check this quick. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to use the big side right here. And you're just going to want to hold the potato. You're going to want to be careful. It is, like I said, slippery. So you just want to make sure that your hands are away from the sharp grater. You're going to take your potato and you're going to hold it at like a 45-degree angle and just go down. I like to just turn it around once in a while so that that point that forms. We're just going to do this until we have the entire potato grated. For anyone who's just joining us, we are now grating our russet potatoes and our onion. If you're using a food processor, you can put this all in a food processor as well. And once you get to the end of the potato like this, that's when you want to be really careful. I'm thinking, I'm going to try my fork trick again and see if it works. So I'm going to take my fork and stick it into the end of the potato. That's actually working pretty well. When you get to the nub, you just want to be careful that the prongs of the fork don't get stuck in there. I'm just going to be mindful of where my fork is as I'm doing this. All right. I'm just going to be really careful with this end up here. All right. Now I'm just going to do the same thing with my other potato. My grater's getting kind of full on the inside. That happens a lot of times with the box grater. So I'm just going to pick it up and then move over a little bit. I'm still over the paper towel, but that way there's just more room for the potato shreds to fall. All right. So I've got my 2 potatoes shredded, and then I'm just going to do the same thing with my onion. I'm just working around that root end. All right, so my potato and my onions, well, my potatoes and my onion is shredded. I'm just gonna carefully take off what's left. There might be some stuck on the inside. The inside is not sharp, so it's okay to grab it from in there. And once everyone's got everything shredded, just go ahead and give me a thumbs up. We'll go on to the next step. If you are using a food processor for this step, you are going to want to take everything out of the food processor and put that into a paper towel or a dishcloth as well. All right, I see some people still working on that.
Yeah, we're stuck at the onion.
What was that?
We're stuck on the onion. It's making our eyes water.
Oh yeah, that happened to me too.
Hi, quick question. We joined late. Should we have preheated an oven?
No, all good.
Thank you.
We're going to be doing everything on the stovetop today.
Oh, beautiful.
And what I'm just doing right now too is I'm kind of getting an extra thing of paper towel and putting my mixture on there just because I have a feeling it might break because there's a lot of liquid. That's why if you have a spare dishcloth to use, that's probably the best thing to use because they won't break. But I'm gonna try this out. All right. Okay, how is everyone doing? Does anyone need any more time to shred? Okay. Take your time, guys. And with the amount of potatoes and onion we use, this recipe should make, depending on how big you make your latkes, around like 2 to 3 dozen. You could always make them bigger or smaller to get more or less, or you can also easily double or half the recipe depending on what you guys need. So if you like this recipe, you can always remake it for the holidays coming up or for dinner one night. So just as we're getting ready, I kind of have my potatoes and my onions. I have 2 layers of paper towel here, and I just kind of formed it into a ball because we're going to want to squeeze all this out over the sink once everyone is all set. So that's why I added that second layer of paper towel, just so that that water doesn't cause it to break open. I'm gonna get one more thing of paper towel ready too, just in case I need it. Not sure if I will, but I don't want to lose everything over the sink. And then we are going to do a quick little herb sour cream with this as well. You can always do just regular sour cream or applesauce, but I found a recipe for this herb sour cream that I thought would taste good. So we're going to do that with the latkes as well. All right. Is everyone doing okay? Okay, good. Do we need any more time or are we good to go ahead? Okay, perfect. All right, so now, like I mentioned, we're gonna take the paper towel or the dishcloth that you have filled with your shredded potatoes and onions. You're gonna bring it over the sink. And you're just gonna wanna squeeze out as much liquid as you can get. I don't know if you can see from how far I am, but I've got a lot of water coming out. And if you get rips, see my paper towel just ripped here. So I'm just going to take another piece and put it in that spot so I don't lose anything and keep on squeezing. Once you get all your liquid out, you can add everything into a mixing bowl. All right, so I'm just going to get my make sure to get all that liquid out too. What I'm going to do is unwrap my paper towel and grab some of that mixture with my hands and just squeeze it in my hands one more time over the sink, just to make sure. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right. Okay. So gonna discard that paper towel. I'm so sorry to anyone who gets affected by onions. I'm still getting it right now, but hopefully that should be done. All right, and I'm just taking whatever fell out, getting that all on into the bowl. All right. Once everyone has got everything dried out, just give me another thumbs up and we will start adding stuff to our latke mixture. Okay, looks like everyone's good. So the first thing we're going to want to do is add 2 eggs. So I have my mix of potato and onion here. I'm just going to crack my 2 eggs into this small bowl first, just so that if any shell comes out, it'll go into that bowl rather than into the potato and onion. And like I've mentioned in previous classes, when we crack an egg, it's kind of like knocking on a door. You don't want to slam the egg and you don't want to tap it too light. You just want to have as if you're knocking on a door. And I'm just gonna crack that in there. There's no shell. One more time. Right. And then those just get added right to the potato and onion mixture. And then once we've got those eggs in, we'll do one more thumbs up and we'll keep adding. I see some already. Awesome. All right, so next we are going to add 1/2 cup of flour. All right, so I believe I had said this once. I'm not sure. My little scooper in here is a 1/2 cup. But the way that I like to measure flour or dry goods is I take a spoon and spoon them into the measuring cup rather than scooping the measuring cup. That way we're not packing too much in there and then end up with more flour than we should. So once I scoop it in, then I take the back of a butter knife and just run it across the top. And then we've got a level 1/2 cup. And I'm just adding that right into the potato and onion mixture as well. Once we've got our flour in, we'll do another thumbs up and we'll keep going. I see pretty much everyone. All right, so next we're going to do 2 teaspoons of salt. So with the teaspoon, it's okay to scoop just because it's not the same way that flour is with salt. So I'm just going to scoop my teaspoon in there. I am going to do the same thing with my butter knife. I'm going to scoop and then I'm going to level. So I've got 1, 2. So once you've got your salt added, another thumbs up. We'll keep going. We're almost there. I see Julie. I see Ron. I see the Judsons, Joyce, Noah. Caitlin. Okay. Okay, so next we're going to do 1 teaspoon of baking powder. So my baking powder container kind of has like its own little ledge right there. So I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm going to use that to my advantage. So I'm going to scoop my teaspoon in there. And I'm going to use that edge right there to level it for me. And it works perfectly. So we're going to add that baking powder in. Then we have 1 thing left, and then we can get ready to start cooking. Everyone good on baking powder? Okay, awesome. Last thing is a half teaspoon of black pepper. I only have black pepper in my mill here, so I'm just gonna do like 6 scrunches, 7. That should be good. If you have ground, you can measure that out with a half teaspoon, or you can do the grinder, whatever works. And then once everyone has that added in, we're going to mix everything together until all the flour is absorbed. So you're not going to see the big white specks anymore. You can do this 2 different ways. If you want, you can use your hands and mix it through, or you can use a spatula, whatever works better for you guys. I'm going to use my hands just because I think it's fun and I like to get my hands involved. If you are using your hands, make sure that they're clean. So I'm going to wash mine really quick. My laptop's about to die. Let me get the charger. Okay. All right, I'm just going to take my hands and go for it. And once there is no more clear white powder from the flour, you'll know everything is fully mixed. And you want to make sure you scrape all the way at the bottom. Sometimes stuff can get stuck down there. All right, that's pretty good. All right, so I'm going to just get all the excess off my hands so I don't lose any. Wash them really quick. All right, and then once everyone has their mixture all set, we can go ahead and get started cooking. Just give me a thumbs up when you're ready. All right, looks like everyone is all good. Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna need a medium-sized pan. We're gonna want to heat the stove to medium-high heat. I'm using, can you see it here? Yeah, I'll do that. Okay, so I'm using a non-stick pan. And you're gonna want to use a good frying oil. I'm using avocado oil. Vegetable oil is good too, whatever you guys have on hand. And you're gonna want to put in enough so that the whole bottom of the pan is covered. Just have to get this cap off. There we go. And another thing you want to be careful of, since we are shallow frying or pan frying like this with a thicker layer of oil than usual, more than just if you're sauteing vegetables or cooking a piece of chicken, the oil can splatter a little bit. So you just want to make sure that when you have your hands and everything around the pan, just be careful of the splattering hot oil. So I'm just going to put in about that much. So you can see there's the entire bottom of my pan is coated with that oil. Then you're also going to want a good sized spoon. You can use a cookie scoop for this too if you have it. Mine's a little bit on the smaller side, so I think I'm just going to use my spoon. And then you're going to want a spatula handy as well. We'll use that to flip the latkes once. Ready. And then I have one more trick for you guys. This is a way that you can test to see if the oil in your pan is hot. Again, this might cause some splattering, so you just want to be careful. But you can see if the oil in your pan is ready by, I use just a wet paper towel, and I haven't squeezed all of the water out yet. I just going to squeeze a drop into the pan. Nothing really happened, so my oil's not ready. If the oil is hot enough, it's going to start, that water's going to cause it to bubble. So we're just going to wait for that oil to heat up. I think I'm going to make my latkes a little bit on the bigger side, so I probably will not get as much as the recipe says you should. I think normally they tend to be a little bit on the smaller side. Just going to give one more squeeze, see how we're doing. Still not ready, so it might take a little bit time for that oil to heat up. And what we'll do is I will show you guys how to cook a batch of them. We'll have those done, and then we'll make our sauce, the herb sour cream. And then after that, we should be all set, and I'll let you guys go so you can cook the rest of the latkes on your own. And we will take a picture with the latkes we cooked and the sauce if you're using it before we go too. So I do see the water that I squeezed in there. Some of the bubbles are starting to form. So it's getting there. It's heating up. It does take some time.
Sophia, do you know what temperature the oil should be?
You don't need it to be a specific temperature because we're not deep frying or anything. It's just once it's hot enough.
And then I think ours is hot, so should we start popping stuff in?
Yeah, you can go ahead and get started. You'll just, whatever size you want to make, you want to scoop them into the pan, and you could do as many as you can fit. You just want to make sure that they all have their own room. You don't want them to be crowded in the pan.
Do we smush them out at all? Because we're using a cookie scoop. Do we need to smush
so
them
you
out?
can scoop them into the pan, and then you can use the back of your spatula to smash it down so it's flat.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, my oil is starting to bubble. Let me give it another squeeze. Okay, yep, it looks like we're ready. So I'm gonna take a scoop. Oop, yep, that was a big one. So be careful again of the splattering oil. So I'm gonna make a scoop about this big. Drop it in the pan. I think I can fit, should be able to fit 3 or 4. Let's try 3. That one was a little big. You just want to make sure that they're about the same size. That way the cook time is the same. This one needs a little more. All right, and then you can take your spatula, or I'm kind of using the back of the spoon just because that's what's in my hand right now. And you just want to flatten them out. Just like that. These are probably a little too big, so my next batch will make sure that they're smaller. And these usually take about 5 minutes per side to cook. What you're going to want to look for before we flip it over is these edges around are going to start to get a nice golden brown. So once you see that and it's the color you like, then you are all good to go ahead and flip. And that way you'll have nice crispy latkes. And this is just the more traditional way of making them. You can always bake them if you prefer. You would just spoon them out onto a baking sheet. You'd probably want it lined with parchment paper. You could spray a little oil on top just so that it gets crispy, and you could always broil it after too. So that's always another option if you guys wanted to bake them instead. And then another thing you'll want ready for once the latkes are done, I'm going to get a paper plate and line it with some paper towel. So that way when the latkes are done, you can spoon them onto here and it'll take up all that excess oil. So they're not just sitting in oil, and they'll stay nice and crispy. So I'm starting to get some brown around the edges. It's not ready yet, but we are getting there. You can always give them a little peep too and see how they're looking. Mine are stuck together a little bit, so I'm just going to separate them. They're getting there. I'd say probably about another minute or so, and then I should be ready to flip. Now you can see those edges are really starting to get golden brown. I'm going to give it another like 30 seconds and then go for it. And these will also freeze really well too. So if you want to make these today and save these for the holiday or save them for another time, you can just freeze them, and then I would probably reheat them in the oven and they should come out perfect. All right, so I'm just going to slide my spatula under the latke and give it a quick flip. Perfect. That's a great color. And just be mindful of the oil too when you're flipping. All right. And then once you flip them, this side should take about 5 minutes as well. It's a little bit trickier to see the golden brown, but if you look on the edges, you can see once those are the same color as the top, then you guys should be good to go. So like I mentioned, we're going to make this batch and then we're going to switch to the sauce really quick. And then I will leave you guys to make the rest. And I'm going to show you how to keep the oil steady while we are doing the sauce. Okay, so I see a question. If you're broiling in the pan, is the timing on stovetop pan the same? So you would only really broil them if you were baking them. If you're not frying them in the pan and you're baking them, you could always broil them after to get them a little crispier, but you probably wouldn't have to broil them if you're cooking them in the pan because they'll get crispy just from being in the pan. I'm just going to play around with them, see how they're doing. I can see brown starting to form on the sides. So it's getting there. They need a little more time, but they're almost ready. Gonna check on them. All right, so the bottom of mine is pretty much the same color as the top. So I'm gonna take them out and put them on that paper towel lined plate. That way they soak up that excess oil. And you can see some of that oil definitely evaporated. So if you need to, as you're going, you can always add a little more into the pan. For now, since we're gonna make the sauce quick, I'm gonna turn my heat down to low. That way the oil doesn't burn and it also doesn't fully cool down. And then before we go, I'll have you guys turn it back up to the heat that we had. Again, you can test it to see when it's ready, and then we can keep frying the latkes. So once everyone has a batch made, just give me a thumbs up and we can start on with the herb sour cream. Take as much time as you need to cook that batch too. We'll use that one to take a picture before we sign off today. But just to prepare, you're going to want to have sour cream, or you can use Dairy-free alternative, I'm going to use Greek yogurt just because it has a little extra protein, so I always like to set that. And then you can have any herbs of your choice. I'm going to be using chives, dill, and parsley. You can really put whatever you want in there, but this is like my favorite combination for this. So I'm going to use those. So I just have all that stuff out and ready. For whoever else is ready, you can do that. And then we can make that quickly in a few minutes once everyone is good. I see Caitlin's got her latkes ready. Awesome.
Sophia, if we're going to do green onions, should we chop them now or should we wait for you?
You can chop them with me because I don't have anything chopped. So we're going to chop all of those herbs together.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, Ella, those look really good. Those look great. If anyone else has them done, feel free to show. I love to see. Oh, Julie, those look really good too. Wow, everyone's got really nice color on them. Joyce, those look great. Judson's also. Caitlin, wow. We did a really good job with these guys. Everyone's got good color and crispy latkes. Okay, does anyone need any more time before we do the sauce? Are we all okay? If you do need more time, that's totally fine. Just let me know. All right, looks like we're good. Okay. So I'm just going to be using this little dish here. This part doesn't have as many measurements. It is on the recipe, but I'm kind of just going to eyeball it for the most part. You do want about a half cup of the sour cream or Greek yogurt, whatever it is you're using. But again, you can kind of make this just to taste and depending on how many latkes you have. So I'm just kind of going to I'm just mixing this up because there's a little bit of liquid in there. This looks like a half cup, so I'm just going to do that. So I just have this in my little dish here. And then you want roughly about the same amount of herbs as sour cream, so you have all that flavor in there. But again, we're kind of making this to our own taste, so you can do whatever you want. So after you have your sour cream measured out, everyone, just let me know if you're all good with that. Okay, looks good. So then we're just going to take our herbs and we're going to roughly chop what we have. So I have some chives here. I'm going to do half of this container. So I'm just going to roughly chop those into some small pieces. I'm going to add those in. And then when I've made this before, I usually pretty much just like taste as I go. So I'll add everything, mix it, and if I like how it is, I'll leave it. If I think it needs more herbs, I'll add some more herbs. So I have my chives added. I'm going to do some parsley now. And I'm just going to pull the leaves off of these. We're just going to rough chop that. And again, you can put pretty much whatever herbs you want to put in. And I know the Judsons said they were going to put in some scallions. You could do that. You could do cilantro. You could do dried herbs if you want. That makes it a little bit easier. If you do end up doing dried herbs, the amounts just might be a little different because the dried herbs tend to be different in potency than fresh. So again, just kind of do it to taste. Okay, so I'm just going to roughly chop this parsley. This might be a little too much, so I might just leave some of that out. All right, and now I'm just going to add the parsley in. And then the last herb that I'm going to use is some fresh dill. I'm just going to grab some of that, and then I'm going to roughly chop that as well. Just going to take it off the stem as best as I can. All right, and then I'm just going to roughly chop this dill quick as well. All right, I'm going to add that in there, and then I'm just going to give it a mix and a taste. I usually don't put like salt or pepper in there because I feel like the latkes have that element of it, but you always can just taste it to your preference. I like having this with latkes just because it's like a cool herby flavor with the warm latkes. So I'm just going to mix this really quick. Sometimes when I substitute Greek yogurt for sour cream, I add a touch of water because Greek yogurt, depending on what kind you use too, can be a little bit thicker than sour cream. So if you want the texture to be more similar to sour cream, you can always add a touch of water. Let's do that really quick. All right. That looks pretty good to me. Just give it a quick taste. That's good. All right. That's perfect for me. You can always add more, less, whatever herbs you want, other seasoning. But I think this goes great with the latkes. All right. How is everyone doing with that? Does anyone have any questions? Good? Awesome. All right, and then once everyone is done with their sauce, just give me a heads up. We'll get ready to take our photo, and then I will let you guys make the rest of your latkes. And if you want, you could put the sauce in the picture too. Should show off all your creations. Oh, those look really good, Julie. Awesome. I'm telling you, everyone did really good with this. We've got nice crispy latkes all around. Okay, perfect. All right, let me just clean off my cutting board really quick and we can take this picture. Let me get mine too. All right, I'm going to set it up. So everyone get ready. And I'm going to count down when we're good to go. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Okay, so before we get going again, just turn your heat on that oil back up to medium high. If you need to add any more oil, you can always do that. You just might need to give it some time to heat back up again. Other than that, does anyone have any questions before we sign off for today? All right, well, with that, I hope everyone has an amazing holiday season. Stay warm this winter. I will be back for you guys in January. So again, keep an eye out for emails, Eventbrite. Thank you guys so much. Love cooking with you as always. And I will see you in the new year. Have a good weekend.